Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Then celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
LBTR is back. How you doing, Dr. Yvonne? You're on mute. It's fine. Yeah.
I'm doing great. How are you, Annie?
I'm always excited to be here and to especially given that you are the expert. It means I can just relax. I can just and learn something from you today. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, so
Well,
glad we're here.
I learn everything from you every time I get on a call with you. So I appreciate you very much.
It's a love fest between me and Dr. Yvonne. That's why we're here, right? Of course, and I think our friends over here and Michael, or Calm, as he calls himself from now on, here as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Michael. Yeah. Look at that.
Hello, Dr. Yvonne.
This is why I love this event. It's only our second one, but I think we talk a serious topic, of course, right? And also it's about helping people move forward. So I do always say this issue of call it what you like, narcissism, abuse, domestic violence. It's something that plagues humanity. It's a disease that we seem to have and we've had for generations. It must change, right? I think we can agree it must change. Because I say I've got a mother. I've got three mothers, to be fair. And I've got sisters. I got a daughter. I got granddaughters. It can't be right that they're subject to this to ridiculous abuse from people. It's just not on, But anyway, so Dr. Yvonne is the expert on this topic, and so we're going to be doing a lot more to beat toxic relationships, and that's the mission that Dr. Yvonne's taking on. And being Annie, of course, I'm here to support Dr. Yvonne on the journey because, like I always say, before I came on, I got asked 3 times, "What do you do?" I'm like, do I have to tell you again? Okay, I'll tell you. Look, Dr. Yvonne and I, we're working on her book, her group book. And also, I guess I'm thinking also her individual book on this topic. Let's Beat Toxic Relationships. So that's what I do for a living, really. I help people to, to share who they are, to share their mission, to share the unique solutions. That really helps people. When I meet them, I always say, let's do events. Let's bring you to LinkedIn so people get to know you, like you, and trust you. Of course, not just on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're also on Facebook as we speak. And the whole point is to do what we're doing, which is build a community of people who know Dr. Yvonne and know the topic. So that when the time comes, when we do publish that book or those books, then hopefully that community of people will support the book. They'll buy the book and tell their friends about the book so they can buy the book as well, right? Other than that, my days are spent having fun. Of course, I do these events as well. It goes with the building that community, and also it goes with my guaranteed Amazon bestseller service for anyone who writes a decent book. I could talk all day because I do more events than most people probably realize, but I could talk all day. I won't, because I want to hear from our friends. I want to hear from you in the comments. If you're here, do join us. The link to join is on the event page in the comment section. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. I can understand that this topic is one that some people will be sensitive and don't want to necessarily, I guess, expose themselves. So in which case, there's nothing wrong with talking in a third person. Tell us about situations that you know of, that you heard about, maybe that you've seen. That's normally a good way to not put the lights on you. Anyway, enough talking from me. Let's talk to Dr. Yvonne. Dr. Yvonne, please tell our friends who you are. I know who you are.
Hello, everyone. So today is like a super beautiful day. Um, I am Dr. Yvonne, and Annie and I met some while ago, and this series is something that I've been through, um, and I've come out on the other end, and it is a exercise in growth and an exercise in humility more than anything, because once you go through um, any type of abuse, any type of narcissistic treatment, and you have to remember too that everyone has a little bit of narcissism in their makeup, because although it is a disease, narcissism, right? It's a mental illness. There's a spectrum, and everyone actually has a little bit of narcissism in their in their behavior. Okay, but when we're talking about narcissism as a abusive thing, where it is actually um, something that is keeping people depressed, suppressed, and also taking away who they are, their vitality, every single thing about them. So for me, I have been working with battered and abused women and children, domestic violence, since 1981. I am Caribbean, so the culture that I grew up in, right, which is um, a lot like, well, it's part of the Spanish culture as well, and they call it machismo, but it's a behavior that is prevalent in our society, and we have allowed it to become normal. But it's not only, it's when you understand that it is not normal for someone to literally put their foot on your neck and keep it there and keep you apart from your family, from your security, make your life unstable, because that's how they get their victims. Narcissists always pick out the brightest stars, and then they whittle away until you see nothing of who you used to be. I had to study what narcissism was. I didn't even know that there was anything out there called that. And so when I was giving or, dealing with domestic violence, I only thought of it as physical. You know, that's all I had ever really seen. And even though I'd worked in the shelters, and now this is not a job, by the way, this was my community give back. This is something that I felt internally was strong for me. And that's because of what I saw growing up. Now, when I say what I saw growing up, it wasn't that I saw a bunch of people with broken bones and all that kind of stuff. No, it was behavioral, and I did see some physical violence within our Caribbean community. But it was something that was like accepted. It was accepted. Now, I didn't see things where people ended up in hospitals and stuff like that. Thank God, I'll go ahead and knock on wood. Thank Yahweh. But it is something that was burned in my mind. And when I got to college, my roommate was a social welfare major, and she was also a senior, and I was a freshman. And in her final year, she had to put in some work in a facility, and she chose domestic violence. Um, Long and the short of it is, she ended up being a victim of her own studies. She married a very violent man, had 4 children, and literally disappeared off the face of the earth. And the way that I look at it is that women that are being abused, be physically or mentally, which would be narcissism, they eventually one day they look at themselves and they realize they've completely lost themselves. So we know what domestic violence is, but what we want to concentrate on are the tools that we can utilize to get reintroduced into our own lives and into ourselves. So what does that mean? That means that we turn all of our energy internally and we start loving ourselves. You see, because before 2017, and this is what I realized in my awakening, is I did not love myself enough. And my self-talk was dangerous to my health. And manifestation of what you're living in, what you're talking about, or what people are doing to you can manifest itself in many different ways. With mine, it was an illness that rendered me unable to walk for over 6 years, a total of 11. Sometimes we don't realize the connection, but when we start going internally, we realize, hey, we don't love ourselves enough. We're choosing someone else or something else to love more than us. Because if we loved ourselves, we would heal ourselves. And that is the foundation to waking up and changing and being a horrible mirror to your abuser or your narcissistic spouse. Now, and you have to also remember narcissism just isn't between couples. It can be between parents and children. It can be between siblings. It can even be at your job. Narcissism is like cancer. Forgive, forgive the analogy, but it does not discriminate. So my work now is to help people, namely women, how to reintroduce themselves to themselves by concentrating on what's going on inside and the love you get. Instead of pouring it out to everybody else, be selfish. And in that being selfish, you will find yourself again. And so those are the tools that I help my clients with. So that that's how I look at narcissism. That's how I look at abuse. And yeah. So now you know a little bit about me and why I'm so animate about this. Because there's so many times us as women, we just give ourselves away. And in the end, we're left like dish rags and dishcloths and just kind of cast it away. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to think about what someone else is saying about being selfish. No, we have to learn to love ourselves, take care of ourselves, and live in our divine feminine energy. And once you embrace that, no matter who the narcissist is, you will be their worst nightmare. Yeah, and so that's why I'm doing what I do.
Thank you so much. I love the way you tell us what you do. Say a lot of people are shy on this platform. They think if I just say it quick in 2 sentences, that people will get it. But I think now we understand and we get why you do what you do. And of course, over time, I think my friends will get to know why you do what you do. So I'm sending DMs, and I just realized a lot of your friends came along last time, right? I like that. We all need new friends always. Sharon Rose, I say welcome. I think that analogy, having the foot on your neck, it's a powerful one. So if I got a friend who's got a book. I'm looking at the book now. I Can Explain by my friend Shala Adewale Sandy, and she talks about having your knee, someone's knee on your neck. I think it's a powerful analogy and how we can look at abuse really for what it is. Of course, we know where that led with George Floyd. But welcome, Sharon Rose. Alexis, my super editor friend. How you doing? Good to see you. Alexis, you got work to do, but you're here, right? I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. I was talking to one of our latest clients that we're working with earlier today. So we're going to start doing events about leadership. Dr. Noella, she's coming. But it's all thanks to Alexis editing her book. And I said, we're excited. Simi, welcome all the way from Nigeria. I said, you got me and Obi here from Nigeria. So we need to talk sometime, Simi. I need to know which part of Nigeria you hail from for sure. But thank you for being here. Welcome to Dr. Lisa. Welcome. Coming off your holiday to come and spend time with us, Dr. Lisa. So our menopause specialist, glad you were here. I have to start mentioning your 3-time international best-selling co-author, right? She writes a lot about her topic, and she is that person who supports people through midlife and to find their joy. Welcome, Dr. Lisa. Linda, I haven't seen you for a while. It feels like I haven't seen you for a while. I'm sure I have, right? But welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My friends, anyone else who's here, do drop us a comment. I won't know you're here otherwise. Did I mention you, Liana? How rude of me. I was about to invite you again, Liana. I thought, oh, don't invite, she's here already. But I didn't quite get around to mentioning you. But welcome. All the way from the US, Minnesota. Yeah, I can pronounce that word quite, Thank you so much. So we've got our friends Michael and Obi here in the studio with us. I wonder if you want to tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and whether you have a take on this topic.
All right. If Calm is not taking it, maybe I can just say a few things about the conversation. First, I want to thank Dr. Ivan for that breakdown of the conversation. It is really powerful. Okay, definitely I'm not an expert in this topic, and I can't pretend to be. But of course, I understand looking at the African diaspora community, which is what I have always focused on in my podcast, the Obehi podcast, and in what we are doing also in our organization with diaspora. It is important, it's imperative that the argument relating to narcissism is something that we also need to consider looking at it from the point of view of mental health, which is very prevalent in the African diaspora community. Not that it's not happening in any other place, but since that is what I'm focusing on, it is of particular interest to me that we look for a way to address this challenge. It's a huge problem in the community, and it's beginning to get worse and worse and worse. I remember, for example, in 2019, when my podcast was actually born. Of course, that was in the heart of the COVID-19 situation. I was doing a lot of interview with many experts, particularly within the area of psychology. Then I was telling them very blankly that, hey, guys, you need to be ready, because at the end of this conflict, at the end of this crisis, actually the right word for it is crisis, we are going to have to deal with situation. And because it have never happened to us before that we are locked down, or if you call it lock up, so that is going to be a problem. And of course, later, luckily, or actually surprisingly, many people started to make a lot of report of what is happening. There is a huge rise in domestic violence. And so that the argument we are talking about just now, this personality disorder it was unveiled, no? Because perhaps people might be hiding, but now you are living in a very small space, because that is where we live most of the time. You just cannot hide it anymore. The disorder become open, so people were complaining a lot about about this violence that is taking place in the house. So where really I want to go is look like a kind of a question as it were, because since we have an expert in the room, is how do we deal with this challenge? How do we deal with this? Because pretending that it's not there is not going to take it away. Pretending that everything is okay is not going to be a solution, because we need a solution. How do we deal with this challenge? It's among us, it's around us, it's here. And just because we pretend that it's not there doesn't mean it's not there. It's there. It's eating the community. It's eating us. as a family. And family is very important for the society, for the community. This is the smallest nucleus of the community. If we want a healthy society, we must be able to have healthy family. Of course, I've also interviewed a number of people because I've done more than 1,000 interviews in my podcast. I've interviewed a couple of people who have talked to me about this a narcissistic personality disorder. Because, of course, I have a lot of questions to ask, and I've asked the one that I could, and I still need to ask more. So the question that I would like to pose is, how do we deal with it? What are some of the ways to address this problem? Because the problem is there. So thank you so much again for bringing up the argument. And also the expert in the room who is helping us. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I give Dr. Yvonne the mic. Dr. I said I just want to let me welcome Christy first of all. Welcome, Christy. I said, and the amazing Sharon Rose says there is no cure. Boundaries are critical. But I think it's a great question, Dr. That's what Dr. Obi. He's a storytelling doctor. He really is. I've written several books about the topic, right? But literally, this is the point. This is what bugs me over here. Really, it's a disease that's been going on for generations, and people just let it go. How do we really stop it? Governments have tried. People have tried. Women have tried.
I don't think it's a matter really of stopping it, because unless you change the behavior, it will not stop. See, the problem with abuse or narcissism is accountability. And unless the perpetrator or the abuser takes accountability for what they've caused within the family, the strain or the lack of affection, family members feel. Because you see, when you are understanding narcissism, you start breaking it down, and you start literally understanding, oh my God, I have been accepting this as normal since childhood. And that was my case. Because the Caribbean or the Jamaican culture, which is the only one that I can speak on, the Jamaican Cuban culture, is such that, everything is kept in the home. Everything. Now, maybe some family members might know, and maybe they might not, know the extent of what the family is actually going through. But there's nothing called stop. It's kind of like everything else you have in life. Is there really anything called stop? No. There is a transition. There can be an evolution, or there could just be a complete, disappearance. Like the people that are being abused can just do a complete no contact. So there's nothing like stop. There is just, how do I handle this? How can I either get my abuser to see what they have done and to take accountability and to go get help? Or is it really just a lost cause and they're never going to change? And the reality is, love is not going to stop them from that kind of behavior. And it's here lately that we have found out that the effective narcissism, or the active narcissism, or being narcissistic, is actually a disease. See, before, we didn't have a name for it. We didn't know what it was. And when people were talking about domestic violence, they were talking about the visual bruises, the physical pain. The emotional side of domestic violence was never addressed. So when we think of someone turning our heads inside out to make us look crazy, right? So, because the narcissist, what the narcissist does is in public, they're beautiful. You would never know. Their public persona is immaculate. But also in public, they might make you into the brunt of their jokes. And everyone's not going to get it, but the person that's being abused. Because when they're alone with the person they choose to abuse, those jokes become knives. So when they tell it in public and people are laughing and chuckling, they have no idea the pain that causes you, but the narcissist knows. Because when you get home, he's going to take that or she's going to take that and she's going to pound that, just pound it down until you crack. And then when you crack, it's like, oh, see, I told you she's crazy or he's crazy, or, that person has no self-control. It gets turned on the victim. And the worst thing you could do to a narcissist is take off their mask. And that's what I'm saying about holding a mirror, being that mirror to that narcissist. You will be his worst or her worst nightmare. And then it's up to you after that to decide, okay, well, do I even want to deal with this in my life moving forward? Do I always want to hold up the mirror and say, shut up? Or do I just want to let it go and say, c'est la vie, c'est la guerre, have a great life? I've spent enough time in this concentration camp and I'm moving on. Let me find a non-karmic toxic relationship. You know, so I don't think you can look at it as how to get rid of it, because you also have to remember it's the temperament of the person. It's how they grew up. It's what they believe they're entitled to when they have a family, a spouse, or they're a head of a corporation and, there's nobody above them, or maybe they're not the head, but they're in with the head and you're just a lowly clerk to them. So they can take out all these frustrations on you and make you feel like you're stupid. It is when you call it out, and it is when you address it and say, no, it's no longer okay. And see, I had to deal with that. But it's really, really hard when you're in love or you think you're in love, because it then is a one-sided relationship. It is not reciprocal by any means. And your love is unacquitted, and it's not until you hit rock bottom that you realize no matter what you do, no matter what you bring, no matter how well you take care of them, they're still going to treat you like, excuse my French, shit. So while that's a great question, how do we stop it? It's the mothers. It's how are you raising your kids? It's what are they seeing? How can we take control of that so we can stop perpetuating it? But remember, in every lineage, no matter what, there is a changeling. I just happen to be the changeling I believe in my family, one of them. I come from a large Catholic family. And, maybe I am the change that they needed, but I'm also the black sheep. Whenever you're the changeling, you are the black sheep, because nobody wants to step out of line. So the only way to really change, if you want to change, is you got to start that behavior at home. That's my perception of it. That's what I believe. So I have 3 children. I keep my children close. I keep open communication. I acknowledge the things that I even did unbeknownst to me because of cultural reasons. But here's the difference. I accepted what I was being told. You know, at first I thought, what the heck? What are you talking about? You know? And then I started really looking at the things that some of the things I didn't even know. I didn't even know it transpired. But I started looking at the way I was being treated. And it all made a world of sense. So it's about starting at home and teaching your kids that that kind of behavior, you can get help for it. You know, if it's innate. If it's learned, then we just have to be more stringent on how we raise our children. That's what I think.
No, so I say I love that. I think it is on, like, it starts in the home, like you say, and I think for me, parents, parents have a role to play. Yeah, I think that mothers have a particular place, but I think fathers do too. So I don't want to dwell too much on my beliefs or why mothers. You know, I'm a man. I'm a boy. I was a boy once, right? And I am what my mother, what I saw from my mother's side, really. So they said that's why I mentioned the mother's side especially. But I think as fathers, we need to start educating our sons. I got two sons, and I tell them, if it ever comes that day where you have to raise your hand to fight a woman physically, leave. Otherwise, you can't sleep. It's on all of us. I think we need to be addressing this issue and addressing it honestly. But of course, our behavior at home as well, as you mentioned, Dr. Yvonne, is everything, right? But as Sharon Rose says, the narcissist doesn't even think anything's wrong with them at all. They think they're just fine, but they must know deep down, because their meanness is not normal. Their meanness is not humane. Their meanness is not. I can't imagine the joy anyone would feel to be so mean. I use the word meanness for a reason, Dr. Yvonne. Now I've discussed this. It is meanness. It's almost hatred that they show. Their behavior, is down to hatred. Really, you can't treat someone so badly if you have any sort of love for them. I think we need to see it for what it is. We need to see it for what it is. That's why, again, that Sharon Rose says, so no one else sees it at all. The narcissist it's only one, so no one else sees it, or hardly ever, if ever, right? Unless they're outside the circle. I'm saying, but literally, you are being. There's a B word for it. That's really the word. Really, you won't treat your pets that way. You won't treat anyone that way. So why would you turn that on your partner? It's so annoying, so frustrating. I think it's denial to say that yes, they say they don't see it, but I think they know they're just being evil, and we have to just keep pointing that out to them, right?
Well, you see also, Eddie, a lot of times a narcissist is raised by a narcissistic mother. And those are the most dangerous of all women. And, when you're a child of a narcissist, you don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. Because you don't understand why your parent doesn't love you. You don't understand why everything you do, nothing is ever right. You don't understand it. And yes, it is meanness. And it doesn't, if your mind isn't there as a person or as a child or as an adult, like you're not a mean person, what that simply means is they have no empathy. And they go after empaths. This raises the bar for them, because you got to also understand there's an inferiority complex there. That's why they have to stomp on other people. You know, I think the worst part of it, though, is when you realize that not only did you pick wrong, but how could you not have seen the red flags? It's imperative that we teach our children as well as people that we mentor to not forego the red flags, not forego those little things that they do, when you're in your honeymoon phase or when your mom is around, the rest of the family. You can't forget those little things because those little things are going to be landmarks in the end. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I mean, they end up being this, the thing, the bright light that one could have seen. And I think there's you make a good point there. It's a little thing. It starts with little things, right? Little things that most people will not put up with. And just say, no, no thanks. I don't need this in my life. Now, let me welcome Yolanda, so my super author friend. You'll be amazed by her book when it comes out, and I know for sure. But she's talking about family relationships, Yolanda. I'll leave it there, right? Look, I see your link in the comments, Yolanda. I see your Facebook link. I'll see what it is, and then hopefully I'm sure I'll come back to it, right? There's many more comments I wanted to mention. I think again, Sharon Rose says the psychological is almost worse because no physical evidence, and it happens to all income levels, educations. Aesthetically pleasing, perfection. Aesthetically pleasing and perfection family, right? We'll try to look as best as we can, and it happens to both genders as well. Both genders do it on the down low. It's covert narcissists, as experts call it, is a death by 1,000 paper cuts, which is extremely dangerous. I think you mentioned that earlier, Dr. Yvonne. It's the little things, what's what I'm looking for. They think they're being funny and making someone a victim in public. It's the little things they do. In the end, they end up being the big things. Sadly, right? Now, Cyrus, I see you. How you doing? Glad you're here. I missed a comment somewhere, right? That's Sharon Rose. She joined us there. Join us in the studio, really. I know one day you will. I hope one day you will. So you share great insights that I think we can all learn from. So they tend to all do the same things, and there's a pattern to their behavior. I agree with you. So once you see it, you can't unsee it, and those who unsee it end up paying, right? They end up paying the price, And so that's Yvonne's analogy of holding a mirror up to the abuser. It's actually good. Let them see themselves the way we see them, the way they really are, right? It's all of that. That's what a mirror does. A mirror doesn't lie.
No, the mirror. Yeah, you're right. The mirror. I'm sorry. The mirror. The mirror is hard at first. I mean, it is an exercise. Trust me, it's an exercise. The mirror is hard at first because you have to talk through your pain when you're holding it up. It then becomes common practice. And in many cases, if you do the mirror exercise the right way, in many cases, that person with the narcissistic behavior, tendencies, what have you, will either do one of three things. The first time you hold the mirror up, they'll come at you hard. The second time you hold the mirror up, you're going to be more secure. You're going to be more into self and less into that other party. So the stronger you get the stronger the mirror. So the first time they're going to come back at you and you're going to feel like they won. The second time they're going to realize that you're not giving them any quarter. Second time. By the third time, they're either going to say, I need to get help and take responsibility, or they're going to leave for good and find their next supply. Because remember, that's where the cheating comes in. They have supply after supply after supply, but they know that their anchor, which is you, is not going anywhere. That's how they hold you. See, all of these behaviors I didn't understand, I didn't get. All right. But once you get introspective about, I'm pouring into everybody else and I'm pouring into this person especially, now I'm going to pour into myself. And guess what? The narcissist sees and feels that you are changing. And they don't like that. They don't like it. They don't like the change. But for you, it is a honestly, it's like a star. For you, it's a star because now you realize that, hey, I love myself and now it's showing. I choose myself. I choose my peace. I choose my happiness. I choose to have the lightest heart ever because in order for me to get what the universe has for me, I have to have the heart as light as a child. My heart cannot be heavy. See, the burden of carrying that is what weighs you down. But once you start healing, you realize it doesn't have shit to do with you. It's not nothing to do with you. And once you realize it and you hold that mirror and you say, you know what? This is your issue. You deal with it. Now, if you want to hit me back later, you can. Or if you want to keep walking, do yourself a favor and keep walking. Because your days doing that shit to me is over. But you have to choose yourself. And when you start choosing yourself, everything else changes. Why is that? Why does everything else change? Because you understand your worth. See, that's the big thing. I don't believe I ever understood my true worth. I think that it was because outwardly, I mean, honestly, I'm high powered. I am high powered and I am busy and I'm on boards and I make money and I do this and I do that and I do. Listen, who would have thought, right? But once you say, you know what, my self-talk does not exemplify what my outward appearance looks like. It doesn't. My self-talk is everything that everybody else has put down on me and wanting me to shrink and to hide my light under a bushel. But it's at that time when you explode, knowing that you love yourself more than whoever the narcissist was, your mother, your sister, your father, your husband, your sibling, whoever it is, your boss. Once you grow that way, they can no longer hold you. They can no longer hold you. And they'll realize to themselves, hey, I either need to like walk away from this or I need to fix myself. Either way, guess what? You win. You win. Because you finally chose yourself.
It's an important point. So again, let me welcome Yolanda again. So she says, pray for removal of narcissistic behaviors. Rebuke narcissists in the mighty name of Jesus. That's a pray for them, right? That's definitely a pray for them. Sharon Rose, again, I always love your addition. She says, I had a boulder sized wisdom gem dropped on my head on Monday. People trying to always control aren't actually in their power. I think that's so true, Sharon Rose. People in their power don't need to control. That is so true, right? Those who are living in a joy don't need this type of behavior. And so many people are not living in a joy, right? I'm talking about it now, your self identity later on tonight in my next remote, which is all like 3 hours away. So do join us, please. Do join us. I'm sure I'll send most of you the invite as well. Let's hear from Michael. Michael, you've been quiet for way too long. I'll come to you. You're coming next, Alexis, as well. Michael, how you doing? Talk to us. Michael,
Hi.
are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll hear
For
you.
a moment there, I forgot that I was Michael.
I like that. I can. All right. So I'll fall into line,
Yes,
and
please.
I'll
Thank
stick
you.
with your identity of calm.
I'm used to you calling me Michael. But yeah, I did realize that, hey, he's not using my name, Calm. But that's okay. It's a learned thing. So I forgive you, Annie. Thank you for
Thank you.
the
I will
effort.
learn. I will learn. I will learn.
Thank you for the effort. I really appreciate. So, um, I was really thinking about what Dr. Yvonne had said, and I got questions for her. Plus, at the same time, I've got some, and in the form of, I need a better understanding of what narcissism or who narcissists are. So, from what I'm gathering, is like what I'm thinking, going through or ruminating through my mind, or what is ruminating through my mind, is that narcissism is a type of emotional or conditional emotional failure. Hence, um, I say this because their failure, which I basically designate as a burden, uh, what they're doing is that they're burdening you um, with the failure, transferring what they were carrying onto you, and being their wife, etc., etc. It's so easy for them to do that, and makes it and convenient as well. And this, I assume, is because of whatever brought that particular condition of failure into their life has not been cured within themselves, and they don't want to release themselves from it. They have this um, love hate relationship with the failure, and it has become part of their system. So I was wondering what you think about that, Dr. Yvonne. Um, is that is that something that you would buy, or is that something that you would think about and um, reevaluate and come up with something else? On top of that, there's also another thing where you talked about they have no empathy, which is true. They are void of empathy,
Mm-hmm.
which goes back to them having burdening you with a failure and not having any empathy about doing that. They love it, and that's why I talk about they have a love-hate relationship with the thing. They have no empathy, so that's how they that's how they operate, and they find it so easy to do that to other people. At the same time, we cannot see or we cannot know um, when we actually run into them, and the reason is because they apply mimicry very well. In other words, they mimic emotions, like for instance empathy, at the very beginning, to make you feel like as if they do have empathy, and yet they don't. But you don't know that because you're so good at mimicking it and displaying it in such, and it's kind of like they are in a show or in a play or in a movie, they see themselves in that environment as just an actor, and so they mimic their emotions.
Mhm.
That's why when you end up finding out their true self, you find that they have no empathy. And then the question becomes to, well, do they have any other type of emotion at all? Because empathy was your biggest thing. But I'm assuming that they probably don't even have other emotions as well. And if you actually go into their businesses, you'll find that out. They there are certain emotions that they just don't display. They have with empathy there has love. They have no love. They don't feel that. There's got to be empathy if you love somebody. You gotta have that's it's like they go hand in hand. So what do you think, Dr. Ivo? I know there's
Well,
several things I threw at you, but
yeah.
do your
So
best.
what's the first question is that they feel like what that they're what was it that you said that they're nothing or failure.
Failure, yeah. That they're
Well,
conditioned emotionally and they have a failure.
mm,
Hmm.
well, part of that is because they're afraid. That's what I've surveilled. Um, even in the case of my mother, right? Um, in the case of my mother, she uh was with a man that was older than her, my father. So she got married when she was with him when she was 16, and my father just died 5 years ago. Um, for her, it was more of a Oedipus Rex, I think, complex. um, and I didn't understand that until my father passed, and the things that came out of her mouth. I mean, I was floored. Um, and I started recognizing certain things that I had nothing to say because I was a child before. But I realized a lot of things upon the death of my dad. But I also realized that, like, the people that a lot of people that I had grown up with and all that stuff, and I hadn't seen them for years upon years upon years. Um, their behaviors, some of the things that I saw in their behaviors. See, it's not failure so much as it's they're not the source of they're not the main focus. So let's say it's my birthday. The narcissist will ruin it because no one's focused on them. Say you had a child. Well, everyone's going to come and see the baby. They're going to ruin those visits because everything is about the baby. And now your attention, your energy is going into that baby. So it's a matter of not being the center of attention. That is what I've figured out from the research and stuff that I've been doing. And, you know, um, even through therapy sessions for me, uh, I realized a lot of that stuff. But again, fundamentally, it was in our culture. It was accepted behavior. And when I tell you I'm the black sheep, I am the black sheep. Writing this book is gonna be earth shattering. Um, and that's because there's so many things cloaked. The other part of it is most narcissists feel that they don't measure up. No matter where they are successful in life, they still feel they fall short. So it's not necessarily failure, it's more of self confidence and the lack of it. And then they tag on, their victims are usually confident and empathetic, loving people. And, you know, they take pleasure seeing you crash. And you'd say, okay, well, uh, why, if they love me, they would be so mean? Because I used to say, why are you so mean to me? Like, what have I done? Like, you know, why are you so mean? And it was always, oh, I'm just tired, or oh, I don't like that you, I mean, something stupid like put the fork with the spoons. I mean, I'm just like giving you examples. There's no real reason for it, except in my case, I really felt like it was a sense of enjoyment for them. That's what I really felt. Um, but you have to remember, you can't generalize everybody. No matter how many people are going through whatever they're going through, it is unique to that person. The behavioral patterns, how they deal with them. You can't just say that all of them are the same way. They're not. They're individuals, and they have their own shortcomings just like we do. The only thing is they have no empathy. And I really feel like they don't have a heart. Because if you had a heart, could your heart be so black that you don't feel something when your partner or your associate or your sibling or your child is crying? You just like sit there and, oh, they're crying, get over it, and walk away. There's something wrong with that.
The only way people that I know that get into that kind of condition or emotion or manner is people that just don't love themselves at all. And that's a tragedy. But I can see that that's when I put myself in their position and try to figure out how I'd actually get to that. That's how I'd get to it. I just don't love myself a lot at all. And because I don't love myself and I see something that is shiny, that is better than me, I'm going to torture that thing. So help me God, I'll torture it. That's how I see it.
That's like, I want to say poignant in a way, but the other way is that that's scary and sad. But I think it's true. I think it's true. I did see someone that said something about, where was it? It caught my eye in the comments.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're quite
Yolanda. What
yeah.
Yolanda said, what are the behaviors of a narcissist? Have
Mm.
an inability or an unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. Uh, be envious of others and believe others envy them. Behave in an arrogant way, brag a lot, and come across as conceited. Insist on having the best of everything, for instance, the best car or office. So again, that's a great point, Yolanda. But um, in the cases that I can honestly say I had to deal with, it was never really a case of look at me, look at me, look at me. And probably because the circle, that I'm speaking of, everybody was pretty much, successful.
Mm.
Everyone. My father was a civil mechanical engineer. I grew up on the North Shore of Chicago, in the suburbs, very wealthy areas. That wasn't, and my spouse, also was raised in that same environment. That's not it. It's something. Now it can be, you know, anything can be, but it is more of an internal conversation they have with themselves.
Mm.
And like in the cases that I have been a party to, even in the cases where the people were physically abused, and like I said, that was not my story. That's why I didn't recognize it for all those years. Not one time was I ever accosted in any way except verbally. So I didn't have to go through that because believe me, if I had to go through the physical, he'd be dead. Believe me. I'm not I'm not even playing. I'm not even playing.
I think that there's something there, Dr. Yvonne. There's something there, which I guess I think from experience. My thinking is maybe when there's a feeling of lack, a feeling whatever that is, whether it's envy, as as Yolanda said, whether it's so there's many others I'm going to put up in a second. I think for me, it's a choice, and it's almost a choice to test the water. Will I get away with this? And once you get away with it once, I think we're in trouble. As a man, I think you can behave like a fool. I'm sure women can too, right? And I'm sure women can. I said, but as a man, I can see how tempted it is to lash out for whether it's frustration, whether it's not feeling in control, as one of our friends says in the comments, right? As Sharon Rose said in comments, they don't feel in control, so they behave like idiots, and that's half the reason. But I think many men will try it, and God help us. I hope that more women will be strong enough to say, I'm not putting up with that at all. There's no conversation to be had. You're sorry, it's not going to do it. No, we're done. But again, when I read the comments, I'm well aware there's a lot more to it than that. So Yolanda's asking further on, where you going to go? See, that's a question that I think plays a big part in putting up with rubbish like that, and then it just carries on and gets worse, right? Let's do some of the comments. Let's see, let's see that if you want to add to them as we go. Sharon Rose says, well, it'd be great if the parents aren't narcissists. I agree with that for sure, right? Kids will repeat what they see. It becomes our conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Normalize, as Dr. Yvonne keeps saying. Let's not normalize terrible behavior. So Alexis says it's hatred for themselves as well as for the mother, father, or even both. Now it's called acting out. Repeats what happened. It's open to them, even if they not realize it as such. And I think there's something there, Alexis, for sure, right? It is a hatred for something, self-loathing, which might come back to Michael's point, lack of self-love. And I think once that feeling sets in, say people can lash out, or they can take it out on someone else. Don't let them get away with it, is what I say. So Linda, I agree with you. Narcissists know exactly what they're doing. They do, but do they really, Dr. Yvonne? I wonder.
No,
I think they do.
They know. They know because it's their aim to break you and to feed off of your energy. See, people don't understand how important energy really is. There's some people that are getting conscious and understanding that they have to protect their energy, especially when you are empathic. You're going to get these vampires, and it's up to you to use your discernment. Some people call it a third eye. Some people call it, instinct. But it's discernment. Because once you start using that and having that guide you, you won't forego the red flags. But it's not always. You can't always catch these things. You know. especially when you're enamored with the other party. When you're in a work environment, the only way you could really get rid of it is either to leave the job, right? Or, yeah, well, I guess to leave the job, because you're not going to sit there and do a mirror to the head of your company. I mean, forget it. You're going to lose your job anyway. Get a new job, open your own thing. Who knows? But, you got to remember that with narcissistic behaviors, they only know two emotions. They don't know any of the other emotions that we all go through. They have no idea how to touch that. I believe that a narcissist can evolve, right? But it's up to you, the person that he's done it to or she's done it to continue to hold up the mirror. And eventually they will say, either I honestly do love this person enough where I am going to change, or they'll leave and find a new supply. Either way, you're better off. Now, how do you get away? Well, if the narcissist is not a physically abusive narcissist, then, you just have to make sure that you have your ducks in a row, save your money, get yourself together, start spending time on you, going around beautiful things, whatever the things are that make you happy. Start pampering yourself, start living in that energy. And believe it or not, things will just start rolling into you because now you're awake and you're seeing everything. So it's not even concentrating on what you've been through, it's concentrating on where you're going. See, you have to be able to release it. So my concentration is on re entering. Now, not only for narcissists now, because a lot of my clients, it's not that they're going through narcissistic behaviors or abusive behaviors. That's only on my give back. That's only on, what I do for the community. But women in
We've lost your volume. Don't know why. We lost your volume for a second there. I don't know.
are you
It
back?
might
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're
Sorry.
back. You're back. Superb.
Um, Women in my age group, um, and younger that have had children, have been housewives or been working for someone, all this time. I work with people like that too, that have lost themselves and need to find themselves again, because that's just the process of being a woman when you marry and you have children and you have all these responsibilities, you know, that's you lose yourself. So you could lose yourself in these types of relationships, or you could lose yourself because of life. Either way, we have to reintroduce ourselves to ourselves, love ourselves, and continue. But for the purpose of this conversation, know that it's we know what it is now. We've defined it. We know that it's an illness. We know that a lot of us have gone through it, and our mothers have gone through it, and our grandmothers have gone through it, and now we're the change. Where do we go from here? That's what I want to concentrate on. I
Yeah,
want to concentrate on what happens after we've identified it. That is what's important, because you got the rest of your life now
mm,
to be happy and to feel fulfilled. And if that situation needs to be left behind, guess what? The universe has a true love for you. The universe has that person that's going to understand your love language. And the universe is going to provide that once you start choosing yourself. So it's about moving on. It's about growing interdimensionally
Yeah, in every way.
in
In
every
every way.
way. In every way.
And,
Anyway, this was so great.
hold on, we're not done yet. I see Cristiano joined us, and I have to get to Sharon Rose's comment. I just love the analogy you gave, Sharon Rose. Now, Alexis says, it's true. This is so true. And they lack empathy and go after empaths, as that is my personal experience. And of course, research and recovery work. I hear you. I hear you. Do they pick on empaths only, or do they pick on everyone? And like I say, and take the chances and see what they can get away with. But I think I love Sharon Rose's analogy here. I wonder what you think, Dr. Yvonne and Christiana. Sharon Rose says, my analogy is they are hollow Easter bunnies. Empaths are dark chocolate ganache filled with Easter bunnies. And then
Well,
Easter bunnies,
I want some dark chocolate right now.
everyone else. It's not evil, it's hollow, empty souls without work.
That
So
that
they feel.
opens so many doors.
I want the dark chocolate.
That's why I had to get to it, right? I had to get to it. I love that, Sharon Rose. You're a genius.
It cracks
But,
me up.
you say though, no, it's sad and pathetic. It really is sad and pathetic people who do things like that, right? Welcome, Christiana. How are you?
I'm great. Hello. Good day, I should say. Dr. Yvonne, good to see you again.
Mm.
It is my pleasure. Although I don't see you.
Yeah,
Where are you?
she's there. She's there.
I cannot come to video right now because I'm trying to sort out my son.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
JJ.
everything is good with your son.
Sorry?
It's lively. That's all it is. He's extra. Hello, JJ.
Oh,
How are
he's
you?
little?
Say
Yeah.
hello, Uncle Annie.
Hi, Uncle Annie.
There you go.
Oh.
Bless
You,
him.
you shouldn't have done that because now I want to see him. I love kids. And you should not have done that.
Next
Yeah.
time, don't worry. When we do our call, our Zoom call,
Okay.
I don't tend to put him in a public domain. Where I can avoid it. This is public. We might be on audio,
You are so right. You are
but
right.
it's still public.
You are right. You are right. But I still want to see him. Okay.
You will on a one-on-one.
Go ahead, dear, with your comment, please.
I think it's almost like we're continuing from our previous conversation, my last time with you guys, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And this topic for me is something that is very much close to my heart. And when we speak about empaths, Andy made me laugh when I came into the studio by saying, is it everybody or is it just empaths? The reality is narcissists tend to have everybody, and no one can escape. However, empaths are people that they seem as very much easy targets. They become, or they're deemed to be easy targets because naturally they are empaths, and so but here's the thing. The big thing for me here is the boundaries that we must set, no matter whether you're an empath or not. It's the boundaries that we have to set to ensure that we are staying alive, actually, is what I'm going to use. We're staying alive, we're keeping a positive mindset, we're doing the work within ourselves so you can be strengthened enough to be able to, I guess, fend off and stand up against a narcissist ultimately. But yes, I believe that they do target empaths. Empaths are easy targets for narcissists.
Yes, sadly, look at that. I get it. I think I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I think everyone's a target. And then it's which ones can they get away with?
Yes.
And Alexis says, there's always red flags but along with the red flags, the gaslighting leads one to wonder the validity of one's mind. So the gaslighting is probably equally harmful. Like, when you begin to question yourself and the way you are.
Mm.
I think well, that's it's not. I think the whole thing is criminal. If you ask me, again, shall I say it's a sacred dance, narcissist plus empath. Then
Mm-hmm.
only the empath isn't in their power. So maybe it's a lesson for to get our children to be resilient and to love themselves and say no, I'm not putting up with any behavior that's not at all words. And Sharon says again, it's like a death diagnosis, it's a divorce, debilitating debt, essentially something that puts someone on the back foot. That's what narcissists do, right? And once they find someone who will fall on the back foot, stand on the back foot, then they carry on the god awful behavior.
They do.
As Sarah says, wisely, the society needs to normalize it for narcissists to seek therapy rather than demonizing them. They're patients after all. Yes, okay. No, look, I see where I see where it's coming from on that one. No, definitely not. They need help.
Yes,
But don't
they do need help.
ask for help. No, look,
I understand.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think many a time, right? Many a time, we choose how we respond, But then some people let themselves get in a state where they react like idiots. That's a problem, right? That's a problem, And as a man, and I can, I have many choices. How do I respond to that situation? If I choose to respond like a total fool, then I deserve no understanding. I don't even deserve treatment because it's a choice I made. It's not as though I have an illness that is on me, unwantingly. It is a choice that we make with that to be abusive. I truly believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. Dr. Yvonne, what do you think?
But Eddie, can I just say something just before Dr. Yvonne speaks? So I'm trying to clarify what Cyrus is saying. So he's saying that we should normalize normalizing the care of narcissists getting therapy, or normalizing the discussion about narcissists. So in terms of narcissists getting therapy, that should be normalized. I agree. But in terms of them, narcissists, and we talking about them and normalizing that behavior, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's already normalized. That's the problem. It's already normalized. Because for the longest time it's been okay. And not just our culture, but in everyone's culture.
Yes.
You have levels of narcissism in everybody. Everybody has some narcissistic trait. I'm sorry guys. It's literally like 95 degrees where I'm at, and I'm it was 89 degrees at 7:00 this morning. Anyway.
Wow, it's raining here. It's raining all day for 2 days.
Well, I don't mind either one of those things, but yeah, I definitely need some air. I'm not complaining though. Not complaining. I live in Illinois, so I'm not complaining. The normalization of these behaviors or these behavior patterns are already prevalent. And it's been generational. That's why when you become the changeling, when you become the breaker of that curse in your bloodline, it's such a heavy burden. It's a heavy duty. But there's a reason why you were born to that particular tribe of people. Doesn't necessarily mean that this is your soul group or anything like that. It just means that in this lifetime, at this moment right here, you're meant to stop that type of behavior. So a changeling can come in, whether it's to stop these types of behaviors or whether it's to bring the bloodline, the family, up to a certain level. You know, the only thing that I would say, and I'm hoping I'm answering the question. I'm hoping I'm answering the question. I don't remember the total question now. But the only thing that I would say about dealing with narcissistic behavior, and someone did mention the gaslighting. When you start to realize what their pattern is, see, because every narcissist has pattern, you know. Okay, so once you start to realize their pattern, so like if they come to you and they start talking about some individual and they're horrible people, and oh, okay, for an example, your husband comes to you and he's talking about this woman and she's this and she's that and they work together, he has an interest in her. So that means eventually he's going to start being mean to you. Then there's going to be times of missed hours, like, oh, you're working late. Oh, okay. But then when I call you, you don't pick up. You know, it's stuff like that. You start noticing their behavior. And gradually, that's when I say mirror, you hold it up. Oh, so you found your new victim, did you? Oh, so this is the behavior you're having now. Oh, let's see. What's the next step for you? You have to let them know that they're no longer incognito. Their mask has fallen and it is cracked in a million places, and you're not taking that shit. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. Um, and it's the beginning of your new life. And so that's what you need to look at. But in my closing statement, I would say, until the next show, that once you realize that you have to make a change, there becomes a shift. Okay? There becomes a shift. You know, because as I said, narcissism is everywhere. I'll give you an example of a narcissistic supposed family member or friend um, helping somebody out. And, you know, you give them some things, and you bring them in your life, and you try to help them out of whatever the bad situation is, and then you allow them around your family, and then before you know it, they're looking at your spouse, idolizing your spouse, and now they're offering themselves to your spouse. That is another narcissist, because they might not see what's going on in your house because they're only visiting, and you know your husband is showing the best part of him, but her narcissistic behavior is, I want that. That's where envy, right? um Let me find a way to get that. That's gaslighting, right? And you know, whether or not they make it yes or no, you know, it's up to the situation, but that's also part of narcissism, to think that I can get what that person has. And I guess that's true, Yolanda, about the envy, because isn't that like a pattern of envy, or a behavior of envy, which was a terrible, terrible thing to have. Go out there and get your own instead of looking at what other people have. Um, but in my closing, I will say this: once you realize what you are in, the first step for you is saying, who do I choose? Do I choose them, or do I choose myself? Regardless of the name, mother, sister, brother, husband, child, regardless of the name, is that behavior that I'm going to put up with. So once you identify it, right? Once you identify it, what do you do with it from there? Where do you go? That's the concentration. And yes, Sharon Rose, patterns, plural. Yes. Yes. Very plural. And there is an entitlement there. And sometimes it's not clear or clean or elegant. You're right. I like all of your comments. Very good. Sharon, yes, you're right. On like all levels, you hit it on the head. But okay, Annie, I will give it over to you.
No, so thank you for all the amazing comments. So I will get to Sharon Rose's comments as well. And maybe that's my last word. Cyrus, you're on stage, my friend. How are you doing,
Hi,
Cyrus?
good afternoon. Good evening,
How
everybody.
Hi, Cyrus.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
is going, is going. My next
It's
show
going.
starts soon, so hopefully
What a fantastic discussion. I'm loving it. I've been listening to it from the get-go, and it's not um every day when you go to an event like this, and the stage is on fire, and so is the comments. It's just fantastic.
yeah.
So uh, regarding what Christina asked, thank you for your question, Christina, and Dr. Yvonne. Thank you so much for the fantastic insights as well. So to answer your question, Christina, what I meant was not normalizing normalizing narcissistic behavior, because um, that would be a an extraordinary claim to say it's a good idea to normalize their behavior. No, so the answer is no. It's not. It's not what I meant. What I meant was normalizing it for them to go and seek therapy, because one of the things that a narcissistic patient, I would say, because that's definitely a mental illness, right? So one of the main characteristics in them is that a lot of them they don't even know that they are suffering with this illness. And if they knew, some of them would do something about it. So 1 out of every 10 individuals are suffering with this. And surprise, surprise, if there is 10 people in this room, one of them is it. One of us is it, right? So one of the things that I would like to invite everybody to focus on is, have you ever asked yourself, because we're always looking at it outwards, never inwardly, rarely inwardly. Have you ever asked yourself if you are suffering with narcissistic personality disorder? If the answer is yes, congratulations. And if the answer is no, you could be one of the 40% that never seeks therapy. So 60% of narcissistic individuals have some knowledge, 20% have no knowledge, and 20% love and admire their own narcissistic personality traits, which is staggering. Like that's unacceptable. So everyone has some parts or some elements of this in their personality, and but there's a threshold. If you meet the threshold, so then yes, you could be classed as narcissist, because there's a definition for that. And not and sitting there and saying none of them know that, or all of them know that, is not very scientific. um uh, we like anything else, if you want to look at it scientifically, you can't be looking at it in a dichotomous way. You have to look at it in percentile, in percentages, right? So just to make sure your science or your knowledge is not skewed or biased. That's my recommendation to this to us, basically, as people who want to seek things in a scientific way. Otherwise, what you've learned, what you learn, will be opinions as opposed to science. Thank you.
Yeah. That's it. I love the science personally, Sarah. So I think Dr. Yvonne did explain earlier that it's almost like a spectrum. I think that's what your data suggests, Cyrus. So we can all be narcissists if we choose to, and the different situations where we do choose to, sadly. But not everyone. Like you say, 1 in 10 will become the criminal, as I call them. You call them patients, Cyrus. I call them criminals because that's just criminal. Do that to my daughter. I'll be to my sister. I'll be at your doorstep and looking at you, saying, "What the hell are you doing?" That's my personal take. Christiana, I saw you flashing.
Most criminals are actually patients as well. Yes, but they need some sort of locking up or regulation.
Yeah, lock them up is why I say lock them up. Save the world. Christiana, go on. Christiana, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. That's always a worry. Nah, I still can't hear you. Don't know what's gone wrong. The internet. Okay, keep trying. If I hear your voice, I'll stop talking. Yolanda, enjoy your pink lemonade. You see the pink lemonade challenge lady, right? Of course you are. Yeah, but I think in my little mind, Cyrus tells me all the time, I can only think by one thing at a time. Your book is, you are the author of that book, Yolanda. Anyway, we have to talk later, so I can get your initial thoughts. Sharon Rose, I say, you're truly a legend. Especially some of our more serious conversations, you always add genius to our conversations. So, I haven't begun grieving and healing from the key situation where I've experienced this. When it comes to the mirror, they will trade you in for someone else. Especially when you hold the mirror up to them, right? I think that's such a good analogy to use, Dr. Yvonne. And Sharon Rose, I agree with you. Supply is so they're always looking for a new supply that they can terrorize. They're like parasites. They're cowards.
That is true.
I agree with you all of that. So of course, I think I do bear in mind Dr. Yvonne's point. When Yolanda asks, "Where are you going?" And I said, "We're going to talk about this in one of our rooms, of course." The most dangerous time is when. Where are you going to go? You have to make a plan, right? You can't. A woman with kids can't just up and go tomorrow without serious planning, right, Dr. Yvonne?
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, of course I can hear you now.
Go ahead. Let Christiana go. Let her
Go on,
go.
Christiana.
No, I was going to say when anyone speaks, thank you, Dr. Yvonne. When anyone was speaking about whether it's his sister or daughter, there'll be an issue. I was laughing behind the scenes because I was kind of waiting for the shotgun comment. I'm going to get my shotgun out. Comment. But realistically, the people that narcissists, especially when they are in this way, or it's against, for example, a male to a female, they know exactly how to charm, how to protect themselves, how to make the other party seem like they are the crazy one. And there is a lot of manipulation that takes place and isolation from their perspective. They find ways of isolating you or making you feel like you are someone who perhaps, I suppose we call it gaslighting, perhaps doesn't know what they're doing, or perhaps they are misunderstanding. I find that quite interesting and intriguing how they have the ability to turn the table around on you momentarily. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you were speaking, Annie.
I get your point, Christiana. It is. I guess the lessons for us is to be more aware, right? Today's topic, regarding your identity. If you see that someone, I say a loved one, is changing, is retreating from who they are, then let's pay attention. Let's do something about it. Let's not just let it go and assume everything's still normal, everything's fine. Dr. Yvonne, I'll let you have your say. I've got 3 sons, Christiana. I got 2 sons. So I don't need a gun. I just need to turn up with my son. Have you seen the size of me? Yes, you have. So I'm not small, right? We won't turn up with something small. Without a gun, you go, Dr. Yvonne, please.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words at this point, because I feel like I talk or I speak when I really have something to say, and I feel like everything that has come out of this particular session has done so much for me, even though this is, mine in any session. I'm looking at these comments, and I can't believe how many people are like right on target with this type of situation. It's more common than I even thought. But the beauty of it comes in the realization of it, right? It's kind of like the crap that's going on here in the United States, right? The realization that the KKK is woven throughout the fabric of our police departments and all that kind of stuff, and our government, but on the surface, we're the democratic nation and all this other crap. Now the mask is gone, and the world sees America for what it really is, and it's very unflattering. That is no different than the discussion we're having right now, right here. So we know the situation. How are we changing it? I know I keep barking on that, but that's what I want to concentrate on, because we can talk until we're blue in the face about abuse, neglect, narcissism, all of those things. But how are we going to change that? How can we give ourselves a better standard of living, a nicer life, a soft life, a life of love? How can we get that? That is really where I want to concentrate, because I'm tired of not having answers, tired of things getting swept under the rug, and tired of lies. So how do we move on successfully? And then if there is a new love out there, which they say everybody has a love of their life, if there is a love out there, how do we welcome it in? How do we bring it towards us? How do we attract it? That's where our focus should be, in the getting over of that situation. But the way that I look at it is, everyone is pretty well versed on, and let's call it a crime, on this crime. That's my comment. Until, we meet again.
Yeah, I think that. Look, I think we carry on talking, and then we'll bring the topic back as one of our topics on our list. Of course, how do we move forward is a big question, but I think today, it starts with refining yourself. I think you called it earlier, Dr. Yvonne. We have to refine ourselves, reconnect with our networks, and go find a way to be our true selves, our happy selves, our productive selves, our self-loving people, that selves that we are. And hopefully that will reduce the numbers. Of course, on top of that, I think education for our children has to be part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
And
Definitely. Yeah.
Can I say why it's important to have ourselves? Firstly, we need to do the work on ourselves.
I
Even
agree.
if that in going to therapy and being able to identify those triggers. Because here's the thing: when you've experienced a narcissist, just bear in mind that if you don't find the strength inside to be able to deal with it, you become subject potentially to another narcissist that you may come across, and the pattern or the case repeats itself.
Can't hear.
About doing that work inside to begin with, and then understanding the signs of how to spot the behaviors that can keep you mentally well. I can keep you emotionally strong, get emotional and mental well-being in check first, and understand the signs, understand your triggers, understand how you react, and the reason why the reason why you react. Once you begin to understand yourself in that situation, you can begin to spot the signs, and therefore it means that you are able to stay clear when you experience or when you encounter at the beginning, because some, like we mentioned before, some people don't even know that they are, and some cannot spot narcissists or narcissistic behavior because they are so normalized. In particular, if you are in a family situation or in a relationship or relational situation, it can be it takes a lot longer for you to realize what is happening to you. So it's really important that we do the work first, so we don't end up or falling prey to experiencing yet another narcissist. And that takes time. That takes the time in you understanding yourself first, understanding what your triggers are, understanding how you react, understanding the signs.
You know,
Um,
oh, I'm sorry.
it's all right.
I have to just say, I have to stick a pin because you said something. The approach to it is holistic. See, you can't fix one thing without fixing everything else. And the thing
Yeah.
that the narcissist is wanting is your reaction. Because
Yes,
then it justifies their treatment to them.
absolutely.
So you choose your reaction. See,
Absolutely.
if you, instead of like naturally reacting, if you take a minute and weigh it in your head, right? It's part of the mirror exercise. Um, Now, how do I want to deal with that stupid ass comment that he just made or she just made or what they just did? How do I want to deal with that? Now, I know that the old me would blow up and spaz out, but the new me is going to say, oh, is that how you feel? Is that why you're doing what you're doing? So that's not the response they want.
Yes.
They're feeding on your negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand it's a holistic approach, not
Absolutely.
only to you, right? And that means you're going to look at the food that you're taking in.
Yeah.
Uh, how are you treating your skin? You know, the largest organ on your body. And how are you showing up for yourself and, others that are under this kind of attack? How how many times are you choosing yourself when they bring up a problem and you know it's a made up problem? Are you
Yeah.
choosing yourself? So the way you react, you don't give them that food.
Absolutely.
You don't give it. You have a choice. And remember, every time you deal with people, you have a choice on how you respond. You just got and for that I teach about the breathing, because you take a deep breath in, you count to 5, you hold for 2, and then you let it go for 6. And by the time you do that, air has gotten in your lungs and in your brain, and it's kind of just grounds you. And then boom, your response is not what they wanted. But guess what? you walk away, your blood pressure is still down, and you're still happy.
Yes.
That kills them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
Um,
you're right. Choosing how you react. Yes.
mhm. And I the what happens in that moment when you choose how to react, you you take away the power. That's what happens. The result of you choosing how you react takes away the power from the other party, takes away from the narcissist, because now they are at odds with themselves. Well, I wasn't expecting that, especially when there's somebody who is so used to behaving in the pattern which behavior that they operate in. When that happens, it's almost like taking the wind out the sails of anyone, right? So that's why it's important to spend the time on yourself, do the work on yourself to understand you in that situation before you approach them. And for me, I thank goodness, I thank goodness for smartphones, because they are they have become a tool in helping you to understand and establish yourself within these spaces. So what I mean by that is, when you have somebody who is quite quite happy, want to either discredit you or to want to um, let everybody think negatively of you, to want to isolate you. With phones these days, you can quickly destabilize that individual, because now you have evidence, and now you can say, actually, this is what really happened. And I know that the shock factor or the reaction that you get puts them in a place of becoming powerless. So smartphones have been something that I find have been used, because previously it was just a conversation. There had to be evidence, so there has to be your word against that individual. Whereas now with technology, there's evidence. So do the work on yourself first. Understand how you react in those situations. Understand the pattern of behavior before you begin to deal, and understand the triggers, because we're all triggered in different ways. So yeah.
No, I like that. I also like that, Sharon Rose. I'm glad you're committed to this conversation and this line of work. Sharon Rose says, I'm getting a PhD in this. Patient already written in my head. Just need to find the program. If anyone knows of a narcissistic treatment program, please direct Sharon Rose in that direction. Let me welcome Sandra, super author of Unmuting Myself, best-selling book. Good to connect with her. Dr. Yvonne, you're very noisy. I'll come back to you in a second. Says Dr. Yvonne, I'll come to you in a second. Says Sandra, thanks for joining us. Raheem, I see you as well. That's all right. And Jeremy, welcome. Raheem, thank you so much for being here. The narcissist, I like to refuse admittance and defensive terms of denial and manipulation. It's a great argument to make, says Raheem. Yeah, but thank you so much for being here, my friends. We really must go. We must go.
Yes.
Look out for Sharon Rose's podcast. There's an upcoming podcast called Shining the Light. We'll share the link when that podcast goes live, Sharon Rose. What talk to Dr. Yvonne? I'm sure can find a way of talking and help people on that podcast, right? Talk to me,
Yes.
Dr. Christiana. We'd like to be guests on people's podcasts. That's a Cyrus, by the way.
Dr. Yvonne, we definitely
Yes.
have to meet up at some point.
Most definitely.
Oh, come to our show tomorrow.
Okay, I will. What time is it? Well, Eddie always sends me those things.
Always.
Yeah, and when I can do it, I'll do it. But what time is it tomorrow?
Will it be early for you? I think it's 2 p.m. UK time.
So what's that?
So what time is that?
That's 7 EST.
Oh, 7 o'clock my time?
No. It's 9 EST.
Oh,
9
9.
a.m.
Oh, Eastern Standard. So if it's
Yeah.
9, it's 7 o'clock for me. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
you'd be further
Okay.
behind.
Yeah. I'll try to make that happen. I know that I have a board meeting tomorrow, but it starts at I think 6 o'clock, and it's over at 7. So I should be able to join you. Yes, I look forward to that.
Awesome.
I'll send
And
you
I
the
want to
link.
thank everyone for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
beautiful support.
It's an important. It's an important issue. Thank you so much, everyone. Look, so now we'll go to the comments and respond. Dr. Yvonne, thank you again, my friends. We're back here in 2 weeks' time. But do connect in the meantime. My YouTube friends, always appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, right? So
Yes.
bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Christiana, thank you so much
Bye,
as well.
everyone.
Wow.
Bye.
Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. Achieve success with Global.Media.